Hi, Tim.
Hello.
Welcome to these UMICH conversations that I have created to reconnect with all of you. And it's so great to see you.
So great to see you. Thank you for inviting me. I feel so honored, especially given the list of people that I've seen that you've invited to come
Such a really for me such a beautiful moment,
in. Yeah.
um, to reconnect and to know how everybody's doing, and also to get to know a little bit more of you. Many things probably that I don't know that I would love
Yeah.
to get to know today. So really thank you for being here,
It's my pleasure.
and I'm so happy that University of Michigan put us together in our path, musical path.
Too.
So um, first of all, Tim, I would love um, to know where are you from?
Um, well, I currently live in Chicago, in the Chicago area now. I grew up for the most part in Southern California. That's where most of my family still lives.
Mhm.
I left California to go to Michigan. That got me. I was actually born in Ohio, so I was from the Midwest. I lived in the Midwest. Um, so Michigan brought me back to the Midwest, and I did my master's at Michigan. And then I ended up moving to the Chicago area to do my doctoral work at Northwestern. And I've pretty much been here every year since then, which was
Mm.
about 16 years ago now.
Wow.
So
Well,
I'm
Chicago is
blessed.
great.
It is. I really love it. I love being here.
Yeah.
Without the winters, but it's nice otherwise.
Yeah. And Tim, how did music came into your life? Um,
Um, I started in the fifth grade playing clarinet, and at the at, and then I ended up um, switching to trumpet at some point. I think it was in high school, and I wanted to do all the cool things and play in jazz band, and marching band was cool for me then. And so I decided I would become a trumpet player. And I then basically entered undergrad thinking, okay, I'm going to be a high school band director. I had no orchestral experience whatsoever. My high school didn't have an orchestra. My college, when I started, didn't really have an orchestra. It wasn't until about my third year of college that the local orchestra started a kind of a training orchestra like Civic with Chicago Symphony. And so I had an opportunity to play in that orchestra. And then eventually I connected with a teacher who was a choral conductor, and I had done nothing. I'd never sung a note in my life, but he really took me on as a student, and he became my mentor. And I started to learn to get into choral conducting, to do opera, to do that sort of thing and branch out. And then that kind of got me in. I decided I didn't really want to play trumpet anymore. I wanted to kind of deal with pieces as a whole. And I wasn't a theorist, and I thought, well, I'm not a pianist. Maybe I can do this conducting thing, because I really seemed to enjoy it when I had the opportunity. And that kind of got me into graduate studies in Michigan. And then I just went from there.
uh-huh. And Tim, why Michigan? Why did you choose University of Michigan?
Um, Well, it had a good reputation. I do remember when I was auditioning, I had sent out, I don't know, probably maybe 5 applications. I think I sent out an application to Indiana, and I remember I did go and do an audition there, um, Yale and Rice, and and then to Michigan. And I had uh, at some point I said, you know what, that's too many. I'm not going to audition for Michigan. And then Rice called me and said, yeah, no, thank you. We don't want you to come audition. And then Yale called me and said, yeah, we don't want you to audition. So about 2 weeks past the deadline, I remember getting on the phone and calling Ken and saying, I know I'm past the deadline. Would you allow me to submit my video, my application? And he said, sure, send it in. So I sent it in. He looked at it that day. I called him back, I remember. And, and he said, well, I remember telling him honestly, I said, listen, just be honest with me. If you think I shouldn't be doing this, you'll be saving me some money and, a plane ticket and hotel stay and everything like that. And maybe it's something I can try and do the next year. And he said, no, why don't you come out? And that was it.
Mm.
So I ended up in Michigan. And I was grateful for it. I mean, it had a wonderful reputation, and Ken was well respected, and the faculty were great, and so it wasn't like I was going to a nothing school. I wanted to try and find a bigger school, a more well-known school. I kind of went to a smaller music undergrad, and I wanted to get one that had a good name like Michigan. So that's what brought me there.
Yeah, well, as a violinist, we usually make a decision of a school probably based on the teacher, no? So in my case, I chose Michigan because of Paul Cantor, who I met in Aspen during my times as a violinist. So, and at the same time, I had to say that for me, my time at Michigan were really, really inspiring moments, inspiring times, especially because I felt that there was this sense of family, of community. Of course, there was, I guess there was some competition around. I never really felt it. But it was always a sense of community, no? Did you feel this way also?
I did. I don't know. I think that one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't take advantage of that enough. But the conducting studio was really tight knit. Like, people were going out all the time, or saying, like, it's like we couldn't go to the bathroom without one another. It's like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and it was great. When I got to Michigan, I felt I felt, what the hell am I doing here? Like, I do not belong here. In a way, I felt like just so overwhelmed. Like I had not, like I said, I had not played in orchestra till I was a junior in college. I think I was probably 21 when I attended my first orchestra concert. So I didn't really know the repertoire. I kind of said, I wasn't 5 years old walking around with a baton thinking, this is what I want to do. I felt like I was just way behind. And, Heather Buckman was in our class, and it's like, okay, well, Heather's been playing with the San Diego Symphony for 20 years, and she knows every note of every piece. And I don't know, Adam Glazer was, talking about listening to Toscanini when he was 3 years old. I don't know, things like that. And I just went, what am I doing here? This is crazy. I don't belong here. And so sometimes I just thought, I need to be studying 12 hours a day. I can't go out. I can't be, networking and doing the things that I should have done. The benefits of being at a school like that, or any school, is the people that you meet and the connections you make. And I made some wonderful connections when I was there, like you, and I'm grateful for that. And I wish I would have done more with that and not been so wrapped up and so consumed sometimes with, I have to do the work. And the work is important. I understand that. And but I always felt like I was just trying to survive by the skin of my teeth in a way.
Yeah, well, I think we have all experienced that at some point in our lives, no?
Yeah.
And something that I find especially beautiful about conducting, I would say more than as a violinist, is the fact that we all find our own path in terms of career-wise, no? Like Absolutely. You mentioned, you probably felt that you were starting very late, but that doesn't mean anything today. That's right. It's the same case for me. I didn't go to the academia as a conductor, but I had other studies. So I think for me it's very fascinating how conducting, how one makes his or her own experience in the conducting right. world. Don't you think?
I think everyone is unique in that capacity, and the majority of people are not. There's kind of a route that you think you're going to take, or that people are kind of expected to take. Okay, I go get my master's, then I get an assistant job somewhere, and I get a better assistant job, then I get a small music director position, then I go from there. And there are people that just do that right away, but it seems even at the beginning, there's more often than not, you're kind of searching for what you can do and what you're able to do. And it's not, it's difficult. It's not like you can practice. You can study, certainly score study, you can take lessons privately, but you don't have an instrument in front of you unless you're dealing with in front of people. And I think I felt that the way, with conducting too, there was some level of difficulty in thinking. You tend to think like, oh, I have to be perfect. I'm in front of these people. They're expecting me to know everything and to explain it, which is just ridiculous. And it's something that I've I've grown out of. I think a lot, to where I want to feel more that I'm just collaborating, no matter what level I'm working at. It's like, oh yeah, we're just figuring this out together. There might be times where I know more and I need to know more, especially if I'm teaching in a teaching position. But I'm not perfect. I never will be. I shouldn't worry about being perfect. It's just difficult that if you have a lesson as a violinist, you're in a room with one other person and maybe your accompanist. If you have a lesson as a conductor, and I'm sure you've been in this position that most conductors have, where you're in front of 40 people and your teacher is just destroying you, and you're like, oh God, please let this end, and you're looking at the clock and thinking, oh my God, I can't wait for this to be over, because you're having to learn all that in front of people, and sometimes it's not the easiest thing to do.
No, absolutely. We have all had those experiences.
Yeah.
And I think that is also so unique about conducting, how that one learns by doing it.
Right.
And doing it with others.
Yeah.
And at least for me, at least it's like that. And I probably not even know. I mean, I think that's the beauty too, that with every orchestra, the experience is so different that the only thing that you can plan is just what the image of the work that you have in your mind in your body, but the rest is so up to other reasons, which is great, and at the same time is how do you say, it's always unexpected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can certainly, I think we all do this, where I've studied this piece, I know it really well, I'm going to go in and I'm just going to wow them, and it's going to be great, and they're going to love me, and we're going to have this wonderful, and it just is like a complete disaster. Or, you can absolutely have the opposite, where you think, oh, I'm really nervous about this, and I'm not sure it's going to, and it just goes incredibly well. And I mean, that just kind of makes you, it's kind of like they say about golf, if you hate it, all you have to do is hit one good shot, and then you think, oh, this is fantastic, I love this sport, I'm going to keep golfing, and it just kind of carries you on to the next thing, and you want the next experience. And so you'll have those difficulties, but you kind of try and work yourself through them, and it helps you to grow and become hopefully a better human being as well.
Yeah. Tim, going back to our times at Michigan, I was thinking now about Ken Kiesler, that now I remember that his instrument was trumpet.
Yep.
Yeah. Could you share with me and with us, with everybody that is listening, what was the signature of his studio, or something that you still think about now when you conduct?
I mean, I think I was very grateful for Michigan and Ken at the time when I was starting. It was, I kind of needed that first step. And Ken was very supportive because he could tell, and he was good about telling that I was in my head a lot with insecurity and things like that, and trying to get over that and just worry about the music. And I mean, I think that's what he stressed best, was get your ego out of it. Just focus on the music, focus on creating the music. You're not worrying about, you're not worrying about how you look or how you present yourself. It's all about the presentation of the music that you're studying, which was why it was such a focus. And so I think that was probably helpful. Our studio in the time that I was there was rather, came from diverse backgrounds, and, I couldn't relate that well to May Ann, who was just phenomenal, or any, a lot of those other students who were just, they were different personalities. And I think Ken did a good job kind of being able to focus on each individual to help with growth. That said, the great thing about Michigan and even Northwestern, when I went to school there, that one of the best things I think that I didn't realize until after were the colleagues that I had, the students like you, like the students in my conducting studio, the students that were playing in orchestra or in the operas that I was helping out with, things like that. You learn so much from your fellow students if you let it, and you think, oh, hey, we're in this together to kind of grow. That is probably the most beneficial thing about being in school. It's, like you said, you go as a violinist, you go because of a teacher. I think you do that with conducting a lot, and with every instrument. It's like, okay, I want to make sure that I have the right primary teacher. But there's so much benefit in that you get from the students that are around you, and the lessons that you learn from them, and the relationships that you create from them, that you carry on much more so, I think, than even the best lessons that you learn sometimes in the classroom.
Yeah. It's learning by experiencing.
Yeah.
Right? I like I mentioned before, the idea of these conversations is, of course, to reconnect, but also to speak or to talk about things that maybe at school we didn't talk about, because we were all so busy about practicing and about learning our scores or going to rehearsals. And as like you said, Michigan, I mean, at least in my experience, I was always like running from one place to the other. And in my own experience, I was in every possible chamber music group, playing with my friends. And now I'm so thankful of doing that. That sometimes probably took some time from my own practice time. But now I realize how important that was, right, or how it is now for me, especially with my time with chamber music, when you get to start taking your own decisions about why you do something this way or the other way. Right. But also this of getting to learn how to communicate with others without offending others. I think that's for me was like the key education for me in that respect, no?
Yeah, I agree. And that was something that, I don't want to say scared me, but that was something that was, when you're conducting, or especially in most of your jobs, probably over half of it is not conducting. It's dealing with the relationships and, development and marketing and publicity. And, you're wearing so many hats that the performance and rehearsal aspect and the score study aspect is not the majority of your time. And that can get frustrating. And you have to know, you have to realize going in that you're going to have to be able to have conversations with people and open up. And especially then, it was just, I can look back at myself then and think, I think I was more serious in my early 20s than I am now. Like, I think now I could watch a silly movie or go out to a club or something and dance and look ridiculous. And back then it was like, no, I'm a serious musician. I need to, I need to be reading poetry and watching serious movies and talking about this. We can't talk about anything real, it has to be just about music, and everything has got to be so focused, and which is crazy and not helpful at all. To put on blinders and just have this kind of tunnel vision for life. I think it's more important that you learn to open up. And it took me forever when I was there at Michigan. I can't remember. I don't know if it was while I was a student or right after. I kind of was in the area for a few years after I finished my master's, and I was studying voice with Jennifer Larson, who was a doctoral student there, and I learned so much from her. She was wonderful. But I do remember at one time she said something that now sounds obvious, but she said, Tim, vulnerability is not a weakness. Exactly. And I mean, this is like a mantra these days, from Brené Brown and all these other people who are just screaming this from the rooftops. And it took me just a long time to realize that was the case, because I always felt I had to be so guarded and so perfect, and so that everyone would see that I was perfect and think, okay, I'm listening. He's doing good. And that's not the case at all. It's the exact opposite. And I think that we are learning that sometimes. I think that might be the lesson that we're learning from the and not to get political on your show, but it's a lesson that we're learning from the people, the person in the presidency here, that there's no vulnerability, there's no humility, and we're paying the price for it because it's all about him. And I think that's the same kind of case we get into with ourselves, especially in music. Like, I have to be guarded and protected and put the armor up and make sure that nobody criticizes me, and everyone thinks I'm wonderful and amazing, and then I'll be successful. And that's not the case at all, I don't believe.
Yeah. Listening to you, I remember some of my times also thinking about the word perfection, being a perfectionist, and how many times we think that that is the path, but it's so wrong. That now that also that I think about it, because we suffer so much from trying to be perfect, which is something that doesn't really exist. No?
Right.
No, my question is, or the reflection is, what do you think is essential now for a conductor, or a young conductor that doesn't go towards perfection? What do you think is the path that we need to think about?
I think that it just has more to do with honesty and just truthfulness and being true to who you are and what you're trying to represent. I think music just reflects life, so it's the same thing in real life. If you try and be somebody you're not, people can see through that. And I think it happens as a conductor, or any musician. If you just try and be something, or if you try and be perfect and you try and be more than what you are, then it never works. I remember David Robertson came in to talk to us at Northwestern one time, the conductor, and he was telling us a story about him just figuring out that you had to be who you are. And he said, if you're a shy introvert, then you figure out how to make that work. You have to be smarter. And he jokingly said, if you're an asshole, be an asshole. I don't know that I agree with that, but I understood his point. Like, people can see that you're putting on airs, or you're trying to be somebody else when you're on the podium, just as when you're meeting people in real life or dealing with people in real life, especially people that know you. It's never going to work. I think that's probably most important, is honesty and integrity, and just trying to be as much as you can, and knowing that we're all at different levels and we're all dealing with different things. And I think that this time is teaching us that more than anything, right? And that we don't know what's around the bend, and we're pretty much all equal right now. Like, there's nobody maybe there's nobody here in the States. There's all these fantastic conductors. They're doing the same thing that I'm doing right now. We're all, trying to do different things. So yeah, I think that's probably the best thing for us.
And now that I'm listening to you, I think also of the word courage. The courage to be yourself. And it came to me, I have been working with Ivan Fisher for the last 2 years, and it's so inspiring to see him just to be himself, and now I recall Robert Spano, the same thing. They're personalities that they're just themselves, and I think that's really something to think about, to have the courage just to be yourself and nothing else. Yeah. And that's become so authentic and honest, as you said. And it's so beautiful for me to get to know someone when you feel that this person is so honest, no?
Yeah. I think that's another great word, is authentic. Like, isn't that what we all want mostly in the performances and conversations and relationships that we have, that there's just authenticity and courage too. I couldn't agree more with that. And it's not, even at, I'm dealing, I teach at a university where the orchestra is mostly non-majors. And I've had a couple of jobs like that. And I've been involved with performances with them that if I went back, if I played you a recording of it, and I'm sure you've had this experience too, you play a recording, you're like, oh, that's not great. But you think back to that moment and you were like, no, that was amazing. Like, we might have not played all the right notes in tune and whatever, but I remember I had a year-long sabbatical at Carleton College in Minnesota, and then the last concert we had Brahms too, it was way over their heads. But everybody there, including myself, were just completely moved by the performance. And again, if I went back and listened to a recording, I would probably think, oh, God, that was not very good. But it was great in the moment. I did a Tchaik 4 a couple of years ago with my down at Bradley University, and it was the same sort of thing. Like, it was over everybody's heads, including mine. But the moment and the experience was absolutely authentic and absolutely courageous, and it meant everything. That was it. There was nothing else to worry about. Who cares if the New York Times wasn't there reviewing it, and even if they were, what difference does it make? That's not important. What's important is the experience and that honesty and courage and authenticity.
Tim, could you tell us where you are now? You have a couple of orchestras. Could you tell us about that? And I'm asking this because before we were talking about how it is to be authentic and make sure that we don't end up just being perfect or perfectionist. And is now my question goes to how does it change the musical experience as a conductor when you have your own orchestra? How could you
in terms of the perfection
in terms of the experience of having your own orchestra, without comparing to anything, just how it is for you?
So I do the orchestra at Bradley University, so it's a college orchestra. That's one of the jobs I have. And as I mentioned, I do have some music majors. It's mostly non-majors, so it's a whole different perspective. And in some ways, I love it because there's a freedom to that, right? This is not, and have had to say that to them, like, why can't we do something that's maybe over our heads and inappropriate? Like, you here are going into engineering or nursing or whatever it is. Your life is not going to be over if we put on a bad concert, but you'll probably remember it if we put on a great concert and have a great experience. Like, that'll probably be more meaningful for you to do that. So I have that group. I have 2 orchestras in the Chicago area. They're both mostly community. There's a few paid people within the ranks. The Salt Creek Chamber Orchestra, which does more chamber orchestra music, and the Northwest Symphony Orchestra, which I've been with Salt Creek for about 10 years now, and Northwest Symphony, I just started I think it's my third year. This will be my third season coming up. And so it's the same sort of freedom that I have with them. I mean, there's some exceptional musicians who decide they're not going to go into music as a career. And they're just as dedicated. I'm in awe of a lot of these people who wake up at 4 a.m. to check the markets and work from 4 till 3 p.m. and then go do an orchestra rehearsal. And they play in 3 or 4 orchestras and they're at rehearsal like every night. But for them, it's just a release and such a joy. And I'm sure you've been in this experience. Sometimes we lose that. We lose that joy for what we're doing because we're so wrapped up in the doing and just getting through it sometimes that we forget to have that experience. And we get anxious instead of experiencing that joy that we should be experiencing because we love what we're doing. So I have that. I'm doing those, and then there's an opera company I work with during the summer, Mio Opera, and actually through the year I do master classes with them and that sort of thing. And there's a Gilbert and Sullivan company in Chicago that I work with that is just a great group of people that I love working with. And the good thing about being in a big city is, again, you get a lot of great singers who are just looking for things to do sometimes. And so you get to work with some fantastic musicians. And even if they are not the world's best musicians, oftentimes they're just great people to work with. And you just love doing it because a lot of times they respect you the same way that I would respect somebody who was a tennis pro or something. And because I understand, I could play tennis. I'm not any good at it, but I can appreciate it. And I keep forgetting that sometimes. Like this is for them is like their pure joy, and it's wonderful. Mm. And it's contagious, right? And it infects me in a good way.
Yeah, I think that is why we do what we do in a way. Yeah.
I hope so.
It's working with others, working with people, and how one nurtures each other all the time, no? Like treasuring the relationships. I before we keep going, Katri Ervama is here watching us.
Hello.
Trevor Haskins, hi Trevor. Elizabeth Helves, she's Chilean, and she says, honesty and truthfulness replacing the word perfection. I loved this.
Good.
Ana Wiesner is here, Melody Jerez, Patricio Gutierrez, who's a wonderful cellist who's studying in Canada, I think. Angelica Van Hool, Jean Godet. Jean Godet is someone that I met through a concert that I do, which is called Concert for Brotherhood, and which is it's an amazing experience that we do, and it has a little bit to do with what you were mentioned about creating an experience for humanities. It's a concept that we created to unify or to put together people from these different parts of the world. So that's the idea. And so this past January, I had an orchestra of 150 musicians, wow, and a choir of more than 200 people, and we did Mahler Resurrection.
Oh,
it was amazing. And we had over 5,000 people watching the concert. But the idea was it's a concert about brotherhood and music as a common territory. And I personally, I just love to have like a specific message to some of my projects that I do myself. But it has all to do with bringing people together. You know, at the end of the day, I think that's what moves me, like big time. Hmm?
I love that, and I wish sometimes I feel like I'm falling short with that, and I want I want our I mean, I think I have to believe that the concert means something no matter what pieces we're playing. But especially now, I kind of feel like I want to create some experience that really relates to, I don't know, what's going on, or, you know, like you said, themes of brotherhood and commonality and stuff like that, and not, you know, it's wonderful for, especially for the groups that I have, for them to do the standard repertoire, and I love doing it, and I still feel, I mean, I guess going back to the beginning of this conversation when I was telling you I came so late to orchestra and to conducting, one of the benefits of that is that I don't feel any sort of burnout. Like I'm not dreading. I don't think I'll ever be at a point in my life where I'm like, oh God, another Beethoven 5. I can't stand it. It all seems kind of so new to me now. So I think that, but I do want to try and create things that are meaningful, and maybe, you know, do more composers that people don't know about. And I don't know. So I love hearing about that experience that you had and the things that you're doing with that. I think that that's fantastic. I'm gonna have to steal some of your ideas.
Of course, steal them all. Everything that is good for humanities, I think we all should get together and do something incredible. And again, this is why one of the reasons that I wanted to create these conversations. And many years ago, I remember reading in Facebook about one of the violinists that studied at Michigan. I can't recall her name. She didn't study with Paul Cantor at that time, was with Sheaves. And I read that she was teaching in Honduras. And I thought, wow, I mean, she's teaching in Honduras, and probably there are so many other friends from Michigan that are doing so amazing things, and it would be so wonderful that we could all get together and do something like worldwide, you know, like a network. I think this is the time to do this. Almost as a necessity for human beings to experience something extraordinary, that and we all have I feel that we all have the courage and to do this, but we have to get together to make it even bigger, no?
Well, I think I love that you're doing this. I mean, I think it's great to watch the other people, and I think it's you know, you're right. This is the perfect time to do this, when we're all kind of I mean, first of all, we have the time because we've lost a lot of jobs sometimes, and we lost a lot of concerts. But we have more time, and you know, it's also just more important to figure. I think we're asking ourselves different questions maybe than we did a year ago at this time. Don't you think?
Yeah. And actually, that was my next question. It had to do with that. What have you been doing during this time of pandemic, in terms of anything, like personally, with others, in terms of your jobs? Could you tell us what had been doing this time of pandemic?
Yeah, I guess the first thing, almost every morning I've been just getting up and going. I have a church job as well, and I live nearby the church, so I go over there, and I've been practicing piano. I'm not a very good pianist, but I've decided when the pandemic started, I'm gonna start practicing some more. And so I go over there for a couple hours, and I'll practice piano, and I also will work on solfege and singing through things while I'm there. So that's been like literally 6 out of 7 days a week, and I love it because I don't, like I said, I played trumpet and then I stopped playing, and I started studying voice. I could learn how to use my voice better. I'm not a singer at all. I started learning piano because I felt it was a necessity, but those, when you're busy and you're doing all your normal jobs, those kind of get pushed to the side, and which is too bad, because I know that I'm a better conductor when I'm practicing the piano, or I'm dealing with, I think, I don't know, Esapeka, I think, said, you should play an instrument. You should learn how to play an instrument to a certain level so that you can relate better to that. And so I've taken it upon myself to try and learn to be a better pianist, which I think is going to make me a better musician and a better conductor. And then I've just been trying to keep myself sane. So I do yoga a lot and go run. I'm trying to self-help, and what's it called? Self-health, or I don't know, self-compassion, whatever. And just trying to not expect that I'm going to, I don't know, find a cure for cancer during this time, but I'm just going to try and do my best. I guess when we came into the pandemic, after those first few weeks and month or so, I just had in my mind thinking, I try and remember that there's going to be a day when this is over. And so I want to be at a different place, in a better place when it's over. Not just musically, but emotionally and spiritually and whatever, and health-wise, and not just be so crazy or so wrapped up in what is going on, but becoming trying to find a way that I can grow as a person and as a musician, so that when this is over, I come out on the other side in a better place.
I'm with you there. So I think this is, for me, has been such a blessing to have this time to study at my own pace, to reflect on things, to think about my values, about my life, and about what I want to do. It's such an amazing time, and of course we realize how important each of us is in each other's life, and that's something that we really need to learn. How my actions affect your life, and it's amazing how this pandemic, at least for me, has been learning that, the pandemic is not happening outside, it's my life also, and I have responsibility for that too. So it's for me, has been a very profound time to reflect on life. Yeah.
I mean, don't you think that that's the most important? It's a scary time too, especially for us and what we do. Our orchestra is canceling, and organizations going under, and universities are struggling and closing up shop, and it's so easy to focus on that, as opposed to, how can we be, under the right circumstances, I still think when this is over, we can just be in a better position to think better and be better. I hope I'm trying to be optimistic in that regard.
Yeah, I think so. I think we need to concentrate on in a way, in the world that we want to create.
Right.
And yeah.
I certainly, there have been days during this where I just want to eat pizza and ice cream and watch movies and do nothing. And I need to have that, I guess, because it's so easy to get caught up in it. Sometimes I have to say, I'm not going to look at the news today. I'm going to turn the TV off because I just need a break. I need to focus on what I'm doing in my little space. And I think that's fine, but.
Yeah. Tim, we have a question here from Patricio Gutierrez, who actually is in Dallas, actually. He says, it's a question for both of you. What would you advise to your younger self when you decided to pursue conducting as a career? Wow. What would you advise to your younger self when you decided to pursue conducting as a career?
Well, I think we touched on that a little bit before, that of trying to, assuming that you had to be perfect and you know, that's not entirely our fault in a way. Like, you know, let's think back to when we were at Michigan. I mean, I can remember going into conducting or to orchestra, like, aren't we idolizing, I don't know, Fritz Reiner, who we think is sitting at home, like, and has one friend and is like, I'm not talking to anybody and I'm a mean person, or Toscanini or someone like that, that's just kind of so focused and isn't, I mean, these things that we're throwing out, community, vulnerability, courage, wouldn't they just say, you know, but I think that now it's important. I think it always was important, but I think it's just now coming to the forefront because we're also dealing with different people coming out to do different things, and it's not just the same type of people, and that's wonderful, you know. I mean, I'm just, part of me always gets furious with the older people who look down on a generation and say those people are lazier, or they don't care enough, or they don't do anything. And I'm just like, no, I mean, everybody's been saying that. You know who thought it was lazy? Your parents. You know who thought your parents were lazy? Their parents. You know, and so it keeps going on and they're different generations bring in different things to the table. I'm going off on a tangent, but I think it's more important that to answer the question, that we focus on that, dealing with relationships and dealing with our own imperfections and being comfortable with that, being comfortable with vulnerability, being comfortable with integrity and honesty, and figuring out who we are moving forward. That's a lot of, you know, I don't know, maybe that's too airy-fairy in terms of words, and not concrete stuff. I mean, in terms of concrete things, you know, finding the right kind of school to go with, the right kind of place to pursue a master's, the right teacher, the right doctorate. I mean, we can certainly talk about that as well. I mean, part of me wishes I had gone for my doctorate to a school that paid, you know, like I ended up spending a lot of money for my doctorate, and I don't think that I would do that again. I would find some place where, kind of like Michigan, that was, the doctoral students were almost like faculty, right? You know, in a way, you were like part-time faculty. You weren't considered just a student, and so you probably had more opportunities. That would be my biggest suggestion. But, you know, the other things are big ticket items that you have to kind of follow.
Yeah, and Patricio, for me, I think what is important to understand also, and to know that whatever in the place that you are is the right place for you at this moment. So, like, no questioning that. And also the idea of that we can learn from everything. You know, every experience in our lives teach us something, and we have to. I think we have to develop this mind that is always alert to learn about life, and probably everything that you learn about life is also, it has to do with music, and so if I had to go back, I would love for somebody to tell me, Alejandra, you can learn from everything, so be alert. No, so my education doesn't become something mechanical, you know, or like a routine, like you have to do this. Well, yeah, you have to do this, but be in a state of mind that it doesn't become a routine. I don't know if I'm explaining this the right way. So everything is, so you live with every experience as a new, like everything is new every day, no?
I think sorry.
So you also have the idea that you are living in the moment, no? I remember at Michigan there was a room for graduate assistantships, bass players, and there was a quotation in the door that it said, I don't know if you remember this, but it said, "Nothing is a waste of time if you use the experience wisely." And I remember going into my practice room every day, and I would pass through this door and I would read this every day. And it makes so much sense. You know, like nothing is a waste of time if you use experience wisely.
I think you touched on it too, about being in the moment and being present and being mindful like that. It's just that in a big grand scheme that has to do with, as you said, where you are right now is the right place. And there's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with having ambition and saying, here's where I want to be. But doing what it's in front of you mindfully and correctly and with integrity is get you to that next place. And you know, it's just I find this so much more often, and you know, I think it's why I do yoga and try and meditate, and it's just, or try and bring meditation to other things I'm doing. I found, like, with practicing now, the days where I go in and say, I'm not practicing piano, this is just a meditation exercise, in me being aware and present, I'm much happier and much more successful than me trying to accomplish something. You know, there's no reason to accomplish something. You don't have to accomplish, you just have to be, and that everything else will take care of itself. But I do want to also say that, in answer to his question, it does, and this is something that took me forever to realize, it does, that the network helps, the relationships you make help. You know, there are certainly ways to get jobs and have a career by constantly winning auditions, but more often than not, you get one opportunity because somebody likes you, or somebody is your friend, or you knew them from college, or you know, had a good relationship with them and they like you and they want to bring you in, and that leads to more things. Not the other way around. Most of us are not 21 with an agent helping us and further our career.
Yeah, that's right.
At least not me. Maybe you.
No. Tim, Vivian Sunarvik. Remember Vivian?
Yes.
She says, hi, Tim and Ale. This
Hello.
is such an important conversation. I love it.
Thanks.
Sabine Brettschneider. Hi, Tim. It's so good to see you again. Hi, Tim and Ale. It's for me, so wonderful, you know, to see all our colleagues that are all professional musicians and connecting with different parts of the world. And like I mentioned in another conversation, for me, it's such an amazing experience to know and to realize myself how each of you brings something in me that it has to do with our own experience that we had in Michigan. I remember sharing with you probably not many moments, but special moments.
Right.
And of course, I used to hang out with the conductors all the time, which also gives me more time to be with all of you. But I remember you as a very special human being, no?
Well, I certainly remember you as well.
Yeah.
I do have a picture. I should have got it. There's a picture of us, of the conducting studio, and you.
Yeah.
I should have dug that up. Because yes, you were always with us, which was great. We loved having you around. And because, like I said, you learn probably as much from your fellow students, you know, and it's not, even if it's sitting at a bar talking about your experiences of the day, you know, that's not nothing.
Yeah. No, for me, those times were very, very important for me, because also I used to play in the lab orchestra, so I would watch all of you, and then I realized, wow, this is really something that I would love to do.
I mean, that's a good point too, to answer the other person's question, is like, you were doing your doctorate in violin, but then you went into conducting without doing school for conducting, correct?
Yeah. So
like, there's another path that's kind of not a normal path that has proved successful, that not everybody's going to be looking the same way and doing the same things.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Like I said before, everybody's saying hello, and Elizabeth, an inspiring conversation. Katri mentioned something early today about, she says, Tim, I'm right there with you, teaching chamber music and foundations to non-majors and completely inspired by honesty, sincerity, and authenticity.
Oh, good.
Yeah, for me, yeah, I'm sure you agree with me, but music has the it transforms lives, and to the person that is making music and the person that is also listening, and I feel that is so potent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
and just even listening to a recording, it probably takes you to a different state of mind, that connects you with beauty, with spirituality, with your own feelings of your own being, to get to know yourself. No?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. But this will be another conversation, because this could last forever, no?
Yeah.
And we just have 2 more minutes, Tim, and again, I'm so thankful that you say yes to this conversation, and that we're connecting again. And it will be wonderful if we can start doing things now together, all together,
Absolutely.
to dream together, and then put things into action. Yeah.
Well, I'm so grateful that you asked me. I love this. I think it's fantastic. Maybe at the end, when you finish with all your University of Michigan interviews, we should have one big Zoom with everybody, and we can have a happy hour, University of Michigan.
Absolutely.
And we can all just kind of see each other's faces, and that'd be wonderful. I would love to see everyone again.
I would love to do that. Thank you for the idea. So Tim, thank you very much again for being here and for sharing your experience with music and life. And again, I wish you the best, and let's stay together in tune, and hopefully we will see each other soon.
I hope so too. Thank you so much. It's been my absolute pleasure.
Okay. And for everyone, thank you for connecting with us, and thank you for joining us every Sunday. And I look forward to the next one. So bye-bye, everyone, and see you soon.